Hey everybody, Bandicoot Commando here, and welcome back to Silhouette Mirage. Last time, I went over the different routes, and, well, not so much as the different routes. I went where all the secret shops were, where you can get, like, each level 6 parasite, and I showed different alternate dialogue options depending on circumstances with certain bosses. So, today, I said there was one more thing I wanted to do, and that is to, well, talk a little bit about the game, but more specifically on its biblical themes. Well, not so much as its biblical themes, but more on the naming of the characters and their biblical themes and such, and maybe just a tiny bit of unused content. So starting off, we have Shina here. I keep saying Shina, but it keeps YouTube subtitles call it China, which is why I'm like, Shina? Cheyenne? I can't say Cheyenne. I don't know if that really is how it's said. So Cheyenne, Japanese name, would translate into Sina Neutralarva Sinner. I'm assuming that while this doesn't really mean anything, the sinner part can reflect on the fact that her silhouette half does have the bat wing on the hat to give it that demon look, but the neutral larva refers to the fact that she is a protean and able to use both silhouette and mirage attacks. Now, while she is not named after anyone, her occupation of being the messenger of justice bring into mind of the Greek god Hermes. Hermes is, among other things, a messenger god, god of medicine, god of thieves, god of this and that. There's a lot of things Hermes is in charge of. But he is best known for being a messenger god and wearing special boots with wings that make him speedy. Next would be the polys. We just call them poly peepers, but here they are known as Cupid, probably to play with the idea that they look cute, but underneath that little mask of theirs, they're not really cute in any sense of the word. As for specters, specters have a similar theme, where here they're just known as specters, but their Japanese name they are called devils. And I mean, sure, pumpkins that can, pumpkin heads sure can be demonic, but they're not devils, if you ask me. The next one I want to say is Genna, if I can just find her article here. Genna's name actually remains the same between versions. She just has an extra she just has like an extra N in her name. And I'm pretty sure Genna is a biblical figure. Yes. Genna is not so much as a biblical person, but it is a place. It is a location. It is said to be found in Jerusalem, south of Mount Zion. There's a lot to do with it. It's first mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as the border between the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. It was then the site of Tophet, where the kings of Judah had sacrificed their children by fire. Therefore, it was then cursed by the prophet Jeremiah. So, pretty interesting to see that instead of being named after a person, it's named after a place. Kind of plays with the Edo in a way. Next, I want to say Grig. If I can, I'm going to have to pull up a different page to find what I want better. Okay, yep, pull that up, and then la-di la-di-do, la-di-la-di-da. Okay, yep, and where is he? There he is. Grig. I called him Greg, but his name is Grig, actually. So, His Japanese name is Grigori Hazai or Haza. Not sure if that's how it's pronounced, really. His name is a type of biblical angel that is also known as a Grigori. They these angels are known as watchers. Part of his Japanese name also refers to the Sanyaza, which are known as the Shamhaza, as I tried to pronounce. They are the leader of the fallen watchers. This is slightly referenced on how Grig has a small platoon of specters to break into the shelter where Shina resided in. Uh, Ignore that. If you heard that, just ignore that. Bug. Bug's Japanese name is very simple. He is known as Moses. Moses, as a lot of you will probably know, is named after the same biblical figure from the Bible, from the Exodus stories. Known from being born and laid adrift in a basket and being brought in to the Pharaoh's family, Moses then go on to grow up, but then learn the truth of his heritage and then being visited by God through a fire in a bush. God would tell Moses to free the Hebrews from enslavement from the Pharaoh and then lead them to the promised land across the Red Sea. This sort of plays with Bug being the one who will lead Shina to reach an Edo, so it kind of works in a name, in a way. Next would be the Samurai. While he is just simply known as the Samurai, his actual name is Naruto, or Naruto. Well, I hope I'm pronouncing Nardo. It's part of his name, but he's just simply known as the Samurai or Samurai Security in the credits. But his Japanese name, though, as I try to type it in, let's see. Hmm. Well, according to his Japanese name is Celsius or Celsus, and all I can find on that name is that it is named after a Swiss physician. He was um, he was a man, a physician, an alchemist, and philosopher of the German Renaissance, pioneer in several aspects of the medical revolution of the Renaissance. Also, the father of toxicology. Other than that, not really what I think Nardo is meant to be named after. Now we have Zohar themselves. Uh, where where'd you go? Okay, I'm just gonna have to take a little shortcut to get there, and good thing I know shortcuts to get around before we. There you are. Internet, wish you can. There we go. Zohar. Depending on which form you're facing, the silhouette form is referred to as Zohar Metatron, while the Mirage form is known as Zohar Sandalphon. In Japanese, it's just Zohar MT or SP. Their names can also be Cypher Zohar's name, though, is either Cypher Ha Zohar or Cypher Za Zohar. Let's see. I don't think, yeah, Zohar really has any sort of specifics with its name or anything like that. But its design, and especially its true guardian angel form, definitely takes on the appearance of how biblical angels are sometimes depicted. The star in its center, and not to mention the star symbol that's always brought up to summon a guardian angel, resembles the Star of David. The only other interesting things I can share with Zohar is that the Japanese guide states that they are said to be around 17 years old. And likewise, in the Japanese script, when you are fighting Cypher Zohar, its voice lines and dialogue is that it does not want to fight Shina in its new form and wants her to run and leave and not to kill her. It hates its new form. But in the American version, because America always has to be hardcore, it becomes death threats and such instead. But you can just blame that to the new form's power overtaking. Next would be Goliath.
Special
Probably one of the
delivery!
other few characters that kept their name between versions.
Trick or treat!
Although his full name in the Japanese version is Goliath the Philistine Warrior. But he still keeps his name as Goliath. So, as you'll know, the story of David and Goliath is that Goliath was a Philistine soldier who, depending on which version of the story you're reading, he really was either just a very large man or he really was a giant. Whatever you believe in, he was a soldier for the Philistines and used his large size to intimidate and fight their enemies. But David was able to defeat and kill him by using a sling and flinging a stone at him. It's said that either the stone went through his head and killed him, or that he just got knocked down from the stone, and David would either cut his head off, or the impact from the stone itself was enough to kill him. Very common story theme of small little man fighting a giant. Next would be Dynamis. So, the thing to know with the guardian angels is that some of them, you might have noticed on some of them that they have numbers. Their numbers are more clear to see in their concept art. Dynamis is known as GA06 or Dynamis 06. 06 refers to her ranking being number 6. As for what Dynamis is known with the name, I don't think that has anything in particular. I can type it in and see, but don't think. Yeah, it doesn't really have anything. It's just a word. Next would be Pablo. Pablo is known as Paulus in the Japanese version. Don't lag on me. His name is a reference to the biblical Paul, who was an apostle who contributed to the New Testament. Although the whole werewolf stuff is probably not even related to that. However, the way that his werewolf form fights, and while this might be a stretch on my part, might be reference to John Talbane from the Darkstalkers series, or his Japanese name being Galum. I think that's how you say his name. Given the fact that they share similar fighting styles of using their claws and teeth and occasionally shooting projectiles. Then, the stupid ad getting in the way. Next, you have Malak, or Malik, as I've been saying, or Malakim 05, therefore ranking 1 point higher than Dynamis. Malik's name comes from Malakim, which is a rank of an angel from Judaism. You know, just pretty simple. Being number 5, not the strongest, but definitely a little better than the others. Next would be Samson and Delia. Samson is pretty easy and obvious. I even briefly touched upon it. when we fought him. His full name is Samson Hair Power in the Japanese version. The hair power plays with the biblical part. Samson the warrior. In the story, Samson was basically a strong man who had great physical strength, was a hero to the people. However, the secret to his strength was his hair, which, if his hair was cut, he would lose that strength. Delia, Delia is a reference and named after the woman from the Samson story. Delia the Beauty, in Japanese, as he is known as. Delia was a woman who loved Samson. It depends again on which version of that story you're reading. Either she just was innocent and curious and just wanted to know what Samson said about the secret to his strength was true or not, or she was secretly working for Samson's enemies, the Philistines, and just was working as an agent for them. Or alternatively, they threatened her and that she had no choice but to comply. Then we have Faust, or known as Georg Foss. I hope I'm saying that right. It's almost like George, but without the E. Faust isn't really named after a particular biblical figure, but he's also known as the Shadow Man in America here. But Faust is named after a character of folklore in German legend, although it is slightly based on Johann Faust, in which Faust was apparently a magician who, while highly successful, wasn't really satisfied with his life, which then led to him making a deal with a devil at the crossroads to exchange his soul for unlimited knowledge and other things. There's a lot of stories with this on what happens once Faust sold his soul. Usually, the more common story, I believe, is that he is given 7 chances to work with, or 7 miracles, I believe, and that he can use the first 6 however he please it. Yeah. Yeah, actually, here it is. He makes a Satan will serve Faust with his magic for a set number of years, but at the end of the term, the devil will claim Faust's soul and he will be eternally enslaved. From there, during the term, Faust makes use of this new power, and in many stories, it depends on how it is. Usually, in some versions, Faust is able to seduce a young woman and more or less kind of rapes her. I hate to say that word. And once, however, like it depends on again what you're reading of it. Some stories are that he does end up dying and being carried off to hell. Others say that he's able to be redeemed thanks to his either due to this woman or in the form of something of other divine intervention. It really depends. Next, we have Sarah. No, not the guardian angel Sarah, the other Sarah. Pretty much similar spelling, just without the H. This Sarah, I believe, she is potentially named after Abraham's wife, Sarah. And what makes that Sarah unique, if I can look her up? There we go. Abraham. Sarah was primarily the wife of Abraham and a revered matriarch in the religions. Known for her beauty and hospitality, she was barren for most of her life before miraculously giving birth to Isaac at the age of 90. She is recognized as the mother of Isaac and the ancestor of the Jewish people. Hmm, well, there you go. And we already went over Delia. The next would be Prinz Dams, the two-headed dragon worm goat thing. It's really hard to make sense of what Prinz Dams is meant to be. Also known as Prince Doms 07. And with the 7, they are at the lowest of the guardian angels. There's 7 of them, and they are the lowest. I don't think there's anything special about their name. Let's find out. Hmm, what if I typed in their Japanese name? What would that get me? Well, all it would be is that a princedom or principality, it's just a territory or jurisdiction or domain ruled by a prince or princess. Nothing really nothing really special about that. Within Prinz Dams would be the Yona division. The Yona division is, while spelt differently, is similar to the Jonah. I mean, Yona, Jonah, it depends on your pronunciation, really. This is a reference to the story of Jonah. In the story of the Bible, Jonah was a prophet, messenger, who would go around spreading the word of God. It wasn't until that he was given a job to go to the city of Nineveh to preach and spread God's word. Jonah initially did not want to go to Nineveh because, well, part of it was that Nineveh was said to be a very lawless and town and just filled with sinners. And more importantly, they were very like pagan. They worshipped some giant fish named Dagon. In order to escape his duty, Jonah attempted to sail away and go elsewhere. But God, being God, created a storm, and the sailors of the ship, recognizing that this is God's wrath, and with Jonah coming clean that he's the one who provoked him, toss him overboard. But upon being tossed overboard and trying to pull him back in, Jonah is then swallowed by a large fish, either a large fish or a whale, depending on which story you're reading. But the whale would be a more appropriate term. For 3 days, Jonah resides within that whale's belly, but prays for God's forgiveness to try again. And from there, he is released and returns to his job to delivering his message to Nineveh. Of course, that story ends on a sad note, though, being that after spreading the message and seeing that his work is done, Jonah leaves Nineveh but watches from afar because he believes that God's not going to allow them to stay alive any longer and wants him to smite them, and is upset and frustrated that the Ninevites have instead repented and atoned and now will follow God's will. Weird how something like that can happen. Well, not weird, but funny how things work sometimes. Next would be Mr. Megiddo. I don't know if Megiddo is based on anything in particular with the name. Yeah, I don't see anything. Although the only noteworthy thing is how his outfit and him always having a rose and using it makes him similar to Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon. I myself have never seen Sailor Moon. Shocking, I know, but I'll take its word for it. Since we're getting very closer to the end, next we have Gargantuan. Gargantuan's Japanese name is simply known as Galagalim 03. 03, the third strongest of the guardian angels. Excuse me. Galagalim are celestial beings who, alongside the cherubims and the seraphims, never sleep, never never rest, and they always guard the throne of God. They're just very abstract angels. Of course, Gargantuan's name can also refer to its size and can also be used for the behemoth. Now, we know Zohar, we know Cyber Zohar, so what about Sarah? And this time we are referring to the guardian angel Sarah. Well, I believe Sarah's name is the same in. Oh no, Sarah's Japanese name is Seraphim 01. This means that she is the strongest of guardian angels. Well, Zohar may have to contend for that title. Interestingly, as I mentioned before with seraphims, with Gargantuan, Sarah's appearance actually matches, in a way, how abstract angels are sometimes described and depicted in the Hebrew Bible. Despite being a butterfly, she is the closest to more or less representing what an angel truly looks like, because sometimes butterflies are also associated with angels. In another sense, one can also say, especially with her battle theme, that she could be based on Madame Butterfly. And Madame Butterfly is an opera. It is based on the short story Madame Butterfly. Uh, Maybe. There's a lot of stuff with it. I don't want to go into detail with it. Finally, oh, wrong page I'm on. We're getting closer to the end. Now we have Hal. Hal is unique for the fact that his Japanese name does stay, but it's only used when you get near the end of the game. He is known as Har. As we know, he's always referred to as Har in the Japanese version, but he only reveals his name to be Har in the American version, going by the name of Hal. Now, while Har doesn't really mean anything in particular, other than that it's a type of a laugh, har har har, hardy har har, HAL can also refer to the HAL 9000 artificial intelligence from 2001 Space Odyssey, in which its name, being a heuristic program algorithmic computer, it interacts with the crew of the Discovery One. Basically, part of HAL is that it is responsible. Um, yeah, I'm looking at how it works. Yeah, part of the idea is that Hal is trying to less protect and continue the mission, but the AI develops faults and it becomes problematic to the point that they have to shut it down. I mean, I've not seen or read the story, so I'm not too familiar with it, but I just know the name. Next, we have Armageddon. Now, Armageddon is a bit of a, well, it's a bit of a amalgamation, if you might say, with names. Now, Armageddon's gender is meant to be possibly female, but but their appearance is a bit androgynous at the same time. So one can say male or female, but clearly might meant to be more female, if anything. Anyway, as for the name, first off, Armageddon's Japanese name is Claude. Nothing too specific on that, but both Hal and Megiddo's last names are Birth Claude, referring to the fact that they are the halves that form Armageddon's body. And Armageddon's name itself can be rearranged to spell both Har and Megiddo. Well, if you had the H and the I in there somewhere. Armageddon, as a word itself, is referred to a biblical event of the end of the world, or at least it's one of the end of the world kind of events. Not exactly like Judgment Day, but it's close though. Yes, it is. It is said to be the prophesied gathering of armies for a battle during the end times. It is. It's kinda. I want to say it might be another name for Judgment Day, but I'm not too sure. Like the end time is as it's referred to as. I'm not sure though if Judgment Day is meant to be like Last Judgment is what it's. Hmm. Yeah, Last Judgment, Judgment Day. It's one of the two things. All right, we're almost done. Only two characters remain. Well, at least that are in the game. One would be Galuv. As we know, Galuv is a guardian angel. She is at rank number 2. She is known as Cherub 02, comes from cherub, a rank of an angel from Judaism. Nothing too specific about her name, although it could be for might be for like glove or something. Now the Reaper. It's still weird that they just couldn't keep his name the same between versions. While he's simply known as the Reaper here in America, in Japan he goes by Zachary or Zacharias. Zachary is a biblical name in the Bible, named after, as I try to, here we are, known as Zachary or Zacharias. It is a prophet from the Old Testament who urged the rebuilding of the temple. It is also the name in the New Testament. It is the name of a priest and the father of John the Baptist. So, a little, odd to have that sort of thing. Don't know again why you can't keep his name as Reaper or Death. Interestingly, on his site in the art, he has, I believe, it says XL, I think is what it says. If I remember what, yeah, Roman numeral XL, I believe, is 40. I believe it's meant to be XL. And this can 40 can mean things, but because he is the Reaper, and as I've said before, number 4 is usually considered a death symbol in many cultures. You got your answer there. Timeout. I'll be right back. Alrighty. I have returned, and now we go over some characters that did not make it into the game, and that they're the only unused elements known from the game. I also have already went over the parasites and their names, but they are basically the seven deadly sins. Serosa, Pridae, Angora, Rasti, Gratoni, Envia, and Covetous. Sloth, pride, anger, which can equal wrath, lust, gluttony, envy, and covetousness, greed. There are only three characters that were designed and were shown in the strategy guide, but they were only, again, they were just simply elements that were not in the final game. The first of them being a guardian angel boss, Hashmalim 04, number 4 in ranking. As you can see with the image, it is a hourglass looking thing. In the glass parts are these little creatures. While it didn't make it into the game, the creatures vaguely resemble chameleons, and Malik ends up getting that chameleon theme to it. But who knows? It was supposed to be the it was supposed to be a guardian angel boss in the castle level, so perhaps Malik ended up replacing it, or who knows? All that is known is that it was locked and imprisoned in that castle for defiance against Hal. Ashmalim, I believe, is also the name of another type of angel in ranking in Hebrew Bible. The next one would be. Oh, I'm gonna have to type. Um, eh, uh, um, sorry, getting a little tongue-tied there. Actually, he does not have a proper article here on the wiki for some reason, but he does have. I can get to him still. He does have something I can find. Would be Nekabad or Nekabadad I hope I'm saying that right. Named after Nebuchadnezzar II, a king of Babylon who destroyed Jerusalem, among other things. I'll just refer to him as Nezer, in honor of Mr. Nezer from VeggieTales. That's where it gets his name from, you know. Nezer was basically the director for Media City. Presumably, the idea for his boss fight was that since he's sitting on a suspended director's chair, he would usually be out of reach for most part of the fight, but would probably lower himself to get down close enough to attack. But at the same time, he would also shout and give orders and directions to Shina to act out. And should you perform them correctly and successfully, you'd probably get some free hits in on him. The last character would be Judas. Unfortunately, there are no notes for Judas in terms of a boss fight, but the only description and explanation was that she is a treacherous woman who would betray Megiddo, and more importantly, Judas being named after one of Jesus' disciples, named after the disciple who would betray him. That's pretty much all I can go over with Silhouette Mirage in terms of names and origins and biblical stuff like that. There's really nothing more I can share. In the end, it's a good game. It's okay. It's memorable to some. It I mean, it's just one of those quirky games you might have played at some point in your life. So, thus ends another game to my collection. That will do for this episode of Silhouette Mirage. Join me in my next one. As for what my next one will be, well, we're going to go back in time, is all I can say, to long ago, to something I did on the channel long, long ago. A nice little redo, if you might. Redemption. Maybe. It all depends. That is it, and I will see you guys in the next one.